Waterwight, Book 1 of the Waterwight series. This is a reading of Chapter 2. Where am I? In the perplexing peculiarity between sleeping and waking, Celeste's voice shattered the silence. A single beam of intense light streamed through a crack in the door and startled her awake from a dream she had hoped would continue. She slapped herself hard on the cheek to see if she was truly awake. The pain told her it was no dream. She had, in fact, run away. But the talking cats? She considered her surroundings. An odor of urine hung in the air, but there were no other signs of the furry animals who had kept her warm. She didn't know how long she had slept, but by the angle of the sun, figured it must be close to mid-morning. She tried to recall the distant song from her dream. It lingered like a craving. For what, she had no idea, but someone was calling to her. Across the room, she could see the scattered contents of her bag. Hungry, the aroma of bacon still fresh in her memory, she hoped the animals had not eaten what she'd managed to scrounge before her hasty departure. The home had always provided 3 meals a day, but lately the children had noticed less on their plates. The previous night, Celeste had crept noiselessly to the kitchen with bare feet on a cold floor, hoping to find some food for her escape. She froze in her tracks halfway down the hall when she heard 2 of the cooks whispering anxiously, and then the sound of cabinets being locked. When all was quiet, she tiptoed to the kitchen and spotted 4 bruised apples on the counter, the only fresh food the children ever ate, and a half a bag of stale crackers. Everything else was locked away. Looking around the tiny abandoned kitchen, Celeste shook her head as she moved to gather her belongings. Talking cats, yeah, right, she murmured, forcing a chuckle. Then she noticed her diary lying open on the floor. Feeling for the key around her neck, still there, she reached for the leather-bound book. No way. Something was scrawled on one of the pages. Panic returned anew at the thought of someone sneaking up on her while she slept. She crept to the door to see if she could see anyone outside. All was as barren as it had been when she first arrived. She looked back at the page and read aloud, "You can't stay here, you can't go back. A tool please find within your sack. South is where you'll find your home, though for a time you'll be alone. Follow your nose to find the springs, but do beware of that which sings. Danger's near, it's time to go. Eeny, meeny, miny, and mo." Celeste wondered who would play such a childish joke on a sleeping girl and was angry for not waking when someone must have taken and replaced the key around her neck. She shivered and then grabbed the bag and opened it. What the heck? She was surprised to find an old metal object at the bottom, a compass. The spinning needle brought back a fleeting memory of camping with her parents. Celeste's father had given her a toy compass and taken her on a short adventure around the campground. "The red arrow always wants to go north," he had told her. Her father was a patient teacher. He had turned her slowly until she faced the direction the arrow pointed. "So if you turn your body until it lines up on the N, then east will be to your right, south will be behind you, and west will be to your left. Now take 10 steps west." With a lingering memory of her father's lesson in mind, she grew anxious to leave the filthy place. At least the cats hadn't touched her food. She devoured one mushy apple while reading the bizarre poem again. She gathered her things and stepped outside. If only the cats were there, she might talk to them again, or determine she must have been hallucinating. Talking cats were things for fairy tales, and the world outside looked like no fairyland she'd ever read about. The sky was a cloudless blue, which emphasized the devastation all around her. While running through the town in the dark, she hadn't noticed the crumpled buildings and rutted streets, the fallen trees and dead grass, the overall desolate atmosphere. Holding the compass in her hand, she turned until the red arrow pointed north, the direction of the children's home. She turned around to face the south. Her home was gone. Why would someone tell her to head south? And where was the danger? She had no idea what "find the springs" meant, or why her nose would be involved in finding them. And singing? Who sang anymore? As for Eeny, Meeny, Miny, and Mo, she could make no sense of that whatsoever. She shook her head, mystified. Although the sun shone brightly, the hairs on the back of Celeste's neck prickled. A surge of energy motivated her to move away from the house, and she headed south, her pace quickening with a growing feeling she wasn't safe. Her brisk walk became a jog and then an all-out run when she looked over her shoulder and saw in the distance a small pack of what looked like wild dogs fighting. Celeste heard one faint, gruff voice from the direction of the pack. The animals stopped their commotion and turned in her direction. "Food," she heard, and ran like she never had before. That ends chapter 2 of Waterwight, book 1.